Next, we're going to do limitation number 9. Limitation number 9 pretty much is probably one of the most difficult limitations for students to get a hold of. So I would suggest that you pay attention. Now, before we get into limitation number 9, because it is talking about the height of the body of the rear of the car with the wheel. Now, you're not going to draw your rear wheel on your drawing. You're only going to identify the center of the rear wheel. So I'm going to have to show you how to figure out what the height of your body is going to be in the rear from your drawing without actually having the rear wheel on your drawing. It's just some basic, simple math we're going to do in order for you to be able to figure that out. However, I suggest you take some notes at this point so you can actually remember all the details of how you got to come about this information. Plus, there are going to be some numbers that I'm going to give you that's going to kind of change up some of the numbers that's on the limitation sheet, the minimums and the maximums, that you're going to need to know in order for you to accurately measure the location of your center and the top of the rear of your car in order to meet limitation number 9. First thing you're going to need to know is limitation number 20. Even though we're talking about limitation number 9, we're going to need to know what limitation number 20 states in order to be able to accurately do limitation number 9. Limitation number 20 is the diameter of the rear wheel. Now, it actually gives you a range from the max of 40 millimeters to a minimum of 30 millimeters. However, you are going to get a rear wheel that is going to be exactly 40 millimeters in diameter. So you need to remember that diameter. Write that down somewhere now. That 40 millimeters is the diameter of your rear wheel. I say that again. 40 millimeters is the diameter of your rear wheel. Now, do you understand what I'm saying? Write that down right now. I know you're not writing, so you need to pick up your pencil and write down what I said. Thank you. Now, let's get into limitation number 9. Limitation number 9 clearly states that, I'm going to read it for you, just to make sure we don't miss anything that it says. Dragster body, height at rear wheel, with wheels. That means you got the wheels on the car, how high the body is. Now, let me give you a little history of what we're going to talk about. Early in the, right at the beginning of this video, if you watch the entire segment, if you only watched this clip, you didn't get this, but if you watched the entire segment, you would have got this information. It shows you a close-up on the track of that your car is going to be running that racing on. And there are some cross members on that track that is set at a certain height from the floor. If your car is too high, it's going to hit those cross members and not be able to operate on the track. So that's why this limitation is a real limitation. It's not just there in order to test your skills of following instructions, but it's a real limitation that you got to meet in order to ensure that your car can race on the track. It's just like when General Motors and some of the other car companies make cars, they got to make the car so it fits the road, that it fit in a parking space. In fact, the Hummer, when it first came out, the big one, it was too big for people to parallel park in cities, so they had to come back and make a smaller one so that people in large cities could still have a Hummer and be able to park it. So you do have to consider these limitations when you're designing things for real reasons. So this is not just an activity just for you to pick up a pencil and a piece of paper and exercise a little math, or for you to just do a little skill. This is a real activity in order for you to solve real problems in the future. And this tests your analytical thinking and your ability to solve problems and bring solutions to the tables, and hopefully you get a good job by doing so. Now, number 9, we're going to draw a little picture of a car to get started. Now, you know, my drawing skills may not be the best, but I make things a whole lot better than I draw. But we'll work with it. I think I want to redesign that top a little bit, give myself a little bit more of a hump, so you can get a little better clearance, understanding of what I'm talking about. Now, that probably wouldn't be the best design for you, but it's for me. Now, earlier we had discussed that anything I draw on the board in red will not be on your car, your drawing that you're going to do. Now, that circle that I just drew in red represents your wheels, your rear wheel. The X in the middle represents the center of your rear wheel. Okay? Now, I just told you that the diameter of this rear wheel is 40 millimeters. Write that down. Thank you. Now, for you to understand why I'm going to change up the minimums and the maximums that this paper say, the limitation sheet that I given you earlier, it clearly states that this distance here, from the bottom of that rear wheel to the very highest point of the rear of your car, the max can be 75 millimeters. The minimum can only be 56 millimeters. Now, you do not know how far it is from here because this is not going to be on your car. But the center of the axle of that wheel is going to be on your car. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to need to know, okay, how do I measure from the center of the wheel to the top of the back of my car and meet this limitation? Real simple. We already know that the diameter of this circle that this wheel makes is 40 millimeters. So, the distance from the center to the bottom is the radius. And that's going to equal, in this case, half of the diameter, which would be 20 millimeters. Hopefully you can see that. Now, since I know 20 millimeters from the center to the bottom of my wheel is my radius, I can then subtract that 20 from both of my numbers, and I have my new minimum and maximum for measuring from the center of the wheel, which will be on the car, to the top, to the highest part of the rear of the car, which is also going to be on your drawing. So if I subtract 20 millimeters from here, I get 55 millimeters max. If I subtract 20 millimeters from here, I get 36 millimeters minimum. So if you use these two numbers, I would write that down if I were you. You do not scratch out. Do not scratch out the minimums and maximum that's already written on your sheet. Just add this into the line across to the right of it, that your new minimum, it would be 36 millimeters, and your new maximum would be 55 millimeters, and that is taken from the center of the axle to center of the axle, center of the wheel, both of them meaning the same, because we said that this X represents the axle, the center of the axle. So you got to go from the center of the axle hole, which is the same at the center of the wheel, all the way to the highest part. Now you got to find the highest part of the back of your car. If you take the measurement from here, it's going to be wrong. So you got to take it from the highest part, because when you put the wheel on the car, it's going to jack it up a little bit higher. Now it won't jack it up 100%, 20 millimeters, because depending on your design, where you locate your axle hole, all this stuff is going to have a lot to do with exactly how high, when you put your wheel on, it's going to jack up the car. However, you know for a fact that if you put your axle hole no more than 55 millimeters from the highest part of the rear of your car, and no less than 36 millimeters from the highest part of the rear of your car, that you will meet limitation number 9 when you use the wheel that I will give you. Thank you.